All right, in the words of a great man I know, boom. Welcome to Hump Day Hangouts. It is episode 149, and today is the 13th of September 2017, and we got the whole crew here, so going to go through and say hello real quick to everybody, and then we will get started. We're all a little distracted. You can see Bradley peering into it. Oh, God, he's showing it.
Does it show? It's not showing, is it?
It was for a minute when you went full screen. It didn't.
Hold on, I got to show the full screen then because it's awesome.
That is awful.
Can you see it now?
Oh yeah.
All right, sorry.
All right, no, that's all right. I'm a big fan of GIFs, so this is working out for me. But I'm sure everybody else would like to move on to the actual Hump Day Hangout. So I'll just go down the line on my screen, and we'll start with Chris. How's it going, man?
Doing good. Excited to fly out here in a week.
Outstanding. Yeah, that's right. We got I'm getting married in 2 weeks, and then in Portland, and then we're doing a meetup, and we're going to be doing a live meetup too. Hopefully you've seen the emails, but we're going to be doing that. So if you're in the area, if you can drive, make it down there, please get signed up. I'll pop the link on the page and come join us. All right, Hernan, how's it going? Are you still there?
Hey guys, sorry, I have a shitty connection. Yeah, I have a really shitty connection, but I didn't want to miss Hump Day Hangout stuff.
Nice. Well, rain, shine, or hurricanes, Hernan's always here. So thanks, man.
Yeah.
Dial-up modem.
Yeah. Hey, whatever gets the job done. Marco, how's it going?
Man, I'm in the Google detox zone, man.
Yeah, what from?
RYSR, man. RYS reloaded. That's your Google detox zone. I can't say the F word right now, but F Google, man.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, things have been going well with RYS Reloaded. The group's going well in Facebook, the private community. We've got, obviously, I'll put the link up there. If you want to find out a little bit more, you can do that. And then I don't have it in front of me, so shame on me. I'll go find it, though. But we had the webinar from launch. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. See if it's the right thing for you. The answer is yes, but, I mean, we'll let you make that choice. And last but not least, Bradley, how's it going?
Hey guys, happy to be here. It's we're approaching our 3-year anniversary. And I was thinking about this today, Adam. I was like, damn, we should have planned like a meetup around that time, like for our third year anniversary. Because didn't we celebrate the second year anniversary last year when we were down there, or was it prior to Panama? I think it was just prior to Panama.
I think it was just prior. Yeah. And
so
I'm not sure how well it would have gone over if I would have had to move my wedding for a Hump Day Hangout. So
yeah, well, priorities, man.
That's it. Jenny might kill you. So
no, but I just thought about it. I was like, man, maybe next year, because we keep having our meetups around like that same time, we should probably try to focus on scheduling it next year for our 4-year anniversary. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Yeah, well, we got some choices, so we can figure episode 200 or the actual 4-year. We can do something. That'd be awesome. Yep. Sweet. All right, well, everybody, I want to tell you, too, if you're new to Semantic Mastery, if you're seeing this and you're wondering who these weirdos are, first of all, you should check out the SEO Blueprint, the battle plan. I'm going to pop the link up there. We got a coupon code so you can save $75. If you haven't yet, go over to SERPspace, create your free account. There's free tools over there you can use, as well as the done-for-you services. We're working on upgrading that. It got a massive front-end overhaul, and we're working on the back end with education and making things a lot smoother. And then again, if you are new, check out support.semanticmastery.com. All right, when we get frequently asked questions, we'll answer, but we'll also point you in that direction. And it's a great place to start before asking questions if you can see if something's been answered, especially if it has to do with like syndication networks, a lot of things around, especially syndication networks. You'll find a ton of info there. So beyond that, you guys, did we have anything else we needed to talk about?
Not on my end that I know of.
I think we're good.
Good to go. All right, let's do it.
Well, okay, so I lied. I'll take one more second. I'm just going to share a link with you guys. I started the Mindset series on Monday. Well, I started it on Monday, but after 7 hours of working on it, I decided to delete it all and do it again because I wasn't happy with it. So yesterday, I re-recorded to start this Mindset Monday series that was originally intended just for the mastermind, but I'm debating on whether or not just to make it public, period, because I think a lot of people could benefit from it. And I think that I would rather it benefit more than less, only because I think that a lot of the training programs for internet, like marketing and online, make money online type programs, one of the things that is lacking is like the mindset and creating belief that you can actually achieve certain goals and build a business and that kind of stuff. And everybody gets excited about you know, like they see some new shiny object or some tool or some new training program, and they think, oh man, this, you know, this is it. This is going to make me some money. But reality sets in once you buy it. And once you realize there's work involved, and the self-belief, limiting self-belief start to rear their ugly heads, which is typical for almost all of us. You know, we start talking ourselves out of how we're actually going to accomplish the goal. And I think that's something that, you know, a lot of people struggle with. I know I certainly have, and still do. And so my point is, you know, I started this kind of series as something that was to benefit the mastermind members originally, but I think a lot more, especially even newer people, newbies getting into the business, it might help them to actually stick to a goal that they set and actually achieve it, as opposed to, you know, just chasing shiny object from one to another, because that'll never work, guys. But anyways, so I'm going to share the first playlist URL for the series that I recorded yesterday and just published it this morning. There's several videos in it. It's like an hour and a half long, you know, through each one of the videos. You don't have to watch it. It's not required reading or watching. It's just something that I wanted to share in case it can help or inspire anybody. And then I'm going to be doing that every single week, something similar to that every single week for the next several months. I don't see an end in sight to be currently anyways. So I'm going to share that on the event page, guys. Feel free to watch it, comment on them if you want. You know, if you decide to leave negative comments, well, then F you. But other than that, seriously, I'm really speaking from the heart with this. So I hope that some people get something out of it. And just let me know what you think. Give me some feedback, okay? So with that said, I'm going to drop this on the page, and then we're going to get started. Okay. By the way, Wayne, I love that SEO meme. That's awesome. That's really great. So this is Mindset Mondays playlist. So check it out when you have some time. Put it on 1.25 speed or something like that. And you'll get through it a lot faster. And just like I said, guys, I welcome feedback. Let me know what you think, because it's something that I'm going to continue doing. And if I can improve it in any way, I'd certainly like to know how. All right. So looks like Adam had the first question. Boom. From Subspace. Can you tell me what's the difference between a syndication network and an RYS stack? Syndication network via IFTTT looks like a great way to push new content out. Not sure what an RYS stack is, or how it works in conjunction with syndication networks. Can you explain? Yeah, syndication networks are really a branding tool and an entity validation method as well. It's you know, there's a kind of a new term that's been going around for, I don't know, probably a year and a half, 2 years, maybe more, but it's kind of a newer term. It's called content amplification, right? And so content amplification, it went from, you know, SEO was traditionally just what you did, right? And then so you do like create backlink building campaigns and stuff by publishing content on other sites. Then there was guest publishing, and then it became, you know, guest posting, and then the buzzword became content marketing. And so content marketing is where you just continually pump out content, and that includes building backlinks back to your site. I mean, that's typically why you do the content marketing, is to educate the consumer and also, you know, or educate your audience, as well as to build as linking opportunities, using that content as linking opportunities. Well, then that became somewhat saturated. So content amplification came out, right? And that's basically where you can publish content and then have it picked up and syndicated and shared via social media, Web 2.0, sites, you know, picked up and published on other people's sites as republished guest posts, that kind of stuff. And so that's content amplification. Well, syndication networks is a way to automate that to a branded network of syndication properties. So by branded, I mean you would theme all of the properties within the network around you know, your brand, which can be a company, it can be a website, it can be a person, right? It can be a personal brand. It doesn't matter what your brand is. The point is to create a consistent brand across as many different third-party properties as possible that you can automate syndicating your own content marketing to, right? So you publish your own content. The syndication networks take care of automatically pushing the content and republishing them to those different websites and, you know, Web 2 sites, social media sites, that kind of stuff. And then it builds, there's an SEO component that's automatic, which is the building of backlinks and social signals and bookmarks and such. And so that's really what the syndication networks are. It should be the foundation that you begin with any sort of website or digital asset, in my opinion. And it has been that way for me since about 2012. And that's basically what the foundation of what we teach is built upon the syndication network as really the bedrock of everything else that we do. Now, drive stacks, I'm going to let Marco talk about that here in a minute, but the RYS drive stacks are using Google's own properties to basically boost your own digital assets or anything that you want. They don't have to be your own. They can be third-party sites, but I would recommend that you always are pushing authority into your own properties. But it's great because it works really well with syndication networks as a companion strategy. It's also a great standalone strategy, but it's using Google's own properties and its own narcissism in your favor. And so drive stacks are very, very, very powerful. And more powerful now than they were 2 years ago when we first released that product. So, Marco, can you shed some more light on that?
Sure. We accomplished two things with drive stacks. First of all, we hit ART, or what we call ART, right? I mean, we talked about this before. We want to have activity on the link. We want to make sure that it's relevant, and we want to boost trust and authority for ourselves. And what we're doing is we're borrowing that from Google by publishing in everything that Google makes available to us. That's one. The second part that we accomplished through a drive stack is the pushing the brand, the entity. I call it your thing. It's the web of things, right? It's things, not strings. So Google is looking for entities, and the better that your brand is announced on the internet as a thing, rather than just something that's standing alone in digital space and doing nothing, the more that you push this entity at Google and throw it in Google's face and say, here I am, this is who I am, and you just do it over and over and over and over until Google says, okay, we get it, we need to rank you. And they do, and when they do, and you hit those top spots, it's almost unmovable. So you actually have two. I mean, for simplification, it's two algorithms. We're actually targeting about 5 through drive stacks, and that's what we're doing. We're after triggering the positive things that can happen to you with Google, rather than going after the negative things that can happen. Right, having someone red flag your website, having someone do a manual review, having someone come in and say, okay, no, this isn't happening. We're going to de-index this. So we try to avoid all that, and we teach how to avoid all that inside RYS Reloaded. But I mean, there's a big difference. One, it amplifies, right? The IFTTT, as you said, amplifies the content, and it accomplishes some entity validation. Through drive stacks, we throw everything at Google all at once. I mean, we just shove stuff. I can say shit. We shove shit down Google's throat, and we make them like it.
There you go. Now, I like that you said shove shit down Google's throat. And I mean, it's funny because that's what we said. You use Google's own narcissism against itself, which is great. It's very, very powerful. So definitely check out both of them. But again, I think syndication networks should be basically required. I mean, I've been doing a lot of testing recently with local stuff, with press releases, without even building syndication networks, and I'm having some success with that. Which is very interesting because it's just been part of my overall strategy for 5 years now, or going on 6 years. So it's really interesting. But so if able to achieve results without them, and I know from almost 6 years of practice and experience of using them and being able to produce results, then combining those two strategies and the RYS drive stacks as well, it's like you got a 1, 2, 3 punch combo there that is just incredibly powerful. And so we're going to be doing some more training on that in the coming weeks or months, and we'll talk about it then. Okay. So thanks, Marco. Hey, Semantic crew, want to thank you for your dedication to our success. The battle plan is great help to me as it gives me the exact direction to go and steps to take. Okay, thanks, Jenny. I appreciate that. He says, I am planning to switch all my money sites to HTTPS. Will my site lose backlinks that were previously built? No. No, they won't. Should I do some redirecting on domain level or cPanel, or will it auto 301 redirect to HTTPS? Well, typically there will be some sort of an HT access directive that will now. All right, so there's plugins like Simple HTTPS is one of them that will basically create a record in your htaccess file. It'll add a directive to your htaccess file that automates the redirection of HTTP to HTTPS. So it can be handled via plugin. And that's typically how it's done. Now, I've run into some crazy weird issues when switching an existing site over to HTTPS that required more effort than I was willing to put into it to fix it. So I've just gone to Upwork and hired somebody to go in and correct the issues. And so now, just it's just my go-to strategy. If I'm switching a site over from regular to HTTPS, I just go to Upwork and hire somebody from Upwork to handle it for me. Or if you've got a good host, and that's the key. If you've got a good host, a lot of times the hosts will take care of it for you. All you got to do is contact them and say, look, I'm doing a switch over to whoever your host is. If they're decent, you just tell them, like, look, I'm buying an SSL certificate. I would like to transfer a WordPress site or whatever site all the way over to HTTPS. If I'm running any issues, would you help me to correct them? And a good host will take care of it. Some of the more cheaper shared hosting services won't. Okay, but yeah, as far as the HTTPS thing, the auto redirects, basically you should just try it on your own with the plugin. If it's an existing site with a ton of content, I would have a backup plan ready, or I would just go ahead and hire somebody to do it, or ask a host to do it for you if they're willing to, so that you don't run into any downtime while the errors are being corrected, or you'll minimize that. If you try to do it on your own first, then, I recommend you do it on a site that is relatively new or has, very few pages and or content posts, because otherwise it could end up being a bit of a mess for you to clean up after the fact, right? After you've made the switch. So again, it's just a matter of how big is the project? How critical is it? If downtime is going to cause significant loss of income or revenue, then I would recommend that you line up some professional help in the beginning. And it's not very expensive, guys. I mean, you can get somebody from like the Philippines, for example, to do HTTPS or SSL installation and updating the website for any errors or CSS functions. And sometimes scripts and stuff will go awry. All that stuff can be fixed relatively cheap. I mean, I pay somebody $40 or $50 to have the site gone through with a fine-tooth comb and make sure everything's correct. So that's relatively inexpensive, because if I had to do it, it could take me several hours, and my time is worth more than that, in my opinion. I'm willing to pay that to have somebody else do it for me, if that makes sense. Anybody have any comments on that?
Yeah, I have it's really simple, because if you move everything over to HTTPS and you copy the site, I mean, you clone the site and you move it over to HTTPS, and you don't change the URL structure, all that's changing is it's going from HTTP to HTTPS, and you can just do a site-wide 301. Where people run into problems is when they go to HTTPS and they start changing URLs, and they start changing the CSS, and they start changing the basic framework of the website, because 301 was designed to let Google know that the content from this place, whether it's a page or an entire site, has moved to another URL, which HTTPS is another URL because of the S. At any rate, if you're doing that, if you're cloning the website, same theme, same everything, you're not changing anything, and you're going to HTTPS, then you do a site-wide 301, and you're not going to have any issues. You shouldn't run into any 404s, although you should still have a plugin or anything else that will let you know if there are any issues, which can be easily solved. So, I mean, that's my take on it. It's very simple, unless you start fiddling with it and making changes, and you mess it up to the point where you start getting a bunch of 404s. And by the way, yes, you will see a slight drop when you move from HTTP to HTTPS. It's like anything else. It'll start dancing, but it should come back to wherever it was ranked before the move. If
Yeah,
you
you'll
taken
see
care of
the
everything.
site dance, but you won't
Yep.
lose any backlinks, is what I'm saying.
No, not
Yeah.
because the URL structure has remained the same, and the 301 is site-wide.
Yeah.
The URLs at the destination are the same, and so it's pushing the links from the HTTP to the HTTPS the same way. So no, you won't lose any links.
Yep. Kingslayer's up. Hello, guys. Are WP multi-sites better using subdomains or folders in main domain? It depends. Well, first of all, I've never used WP multi-sites. If that's what I'm thinking, which is like, isn't that like a way to control multiple sites from one dashboard? Can somebody shed some light on that?
Yeah, and it's also a way to control different language websites.
Okay. I've never used it, so I don't know about, I can't speak on WP multi-sites. I just know that throughout my career, I've heard a lot of stuff that negative about them. So I've just never even attempted, because I was like, why would I want to start building WP multi-sites when I've heard about issues that arise because of it? So as far as building multiple sites, I just do separate WordPress installations on subdomains of a root domain. We talk about this a lot. And I don't know if we have an actual knowledge base article for this, or I would give it to you, King. But what I'm just going to call you King. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, typically what I do for like lead gen stuff or sites with, at businesses that have multiple locations is I try to build out, like on the root domain will be their main brand, right? So that's basically like their branded domain, where you might have a locations page or something that will point out all of the different locations that they have, that they have locations in, excuse me. And then each one of those you'd click through and it would go to a subdomain. And typically I just name the subdomain as after the city. So it would be city, joesplumbing.com. So city1 dot, and then city2 dot, and city3 dot, and so on and so forth. And that's typically how I do it. And I like to do that because we talk about this a lot, but it's because it mitigates risk. Each one of those subdomains is considered an individual entity by Google, even though it's part of an overall brand. The site itself, the digital asset, is a separate entity. So if any one of your subdomains ends up catching a penalty, it should be isolated to that one particular subdomain. Whereas if you caught a penalty on a root domain, it would affect all of the subordinate, or the subdomains, excuse me, all of the subdomains. So like essentially if you caught a penalty on a root, then all of the subdomains are in trouble, right? They're all going to be caught up in that penalty. But if you catch a penalty on a subdomain only, then it won't affect the root and it won't affect the other subdomains. And so my point is that's why I like to do it that way. It's a little bit more of a management headache, especially when you get multiple locations, like many locations. It can be a pain in the ass. But here's a trick. Just use something like main WP. And you can use main WP to manage, have a separate installation, maybe a separate subdomain installation that you use as a control panel specifically for main WP, so that you can update, add and remove plugins, make mass bulk edits and changes to all of the sites at one time using main WP. So that's really what I've been doing, is for every one of my multi-location businesses that I either provide SEO services for, or if they're my own lead gen assets, then I just use main WP, a separate installation on each one of the branded domains, either on a subdomain, or sometimes I'll even put it just on the root domain itself, because the root domain is typically just used as like a branding page, because all of the heavy lifting is done by each one of the subdomains as far as content marketing, or it really just depends on how the configuration is. But I personally, I would recommend that you would go with subdomains. I'm not going to recommend WP multi-sites. I really can't speak about it, but I've never heard anything really good about it. So I would recommend that you would just do separate WordPress installations on subdomains for the reasons I just mentioned. You don't want to put them in folders, although if you have separate WordPress installations in subfolders, it's still treated as being in part of the root domain by Google. So there is a slight SEO benefit to doing it that way, as far as putting them in subfolders. From what I hear, I don't know, because I personally have always gone the subdomain route for reducing risk. But I've heard through various other SEOs and colleagues and such that there's a little bit of a benefit, an SEO benefit, to having them all in subfolders, but you open yourself up to more potential risk at that point. Okay. As far as link building strategy for main domain at first, or to each subdomain, really, to be honest with you, I usually will start. It depends on how I got it set up, but I like to do one branded syndication network for the root domain, which can serve as the syndication network for all of the subdomain sites too. So here, let me give you an example. Let's say that you got a site with 4 locations, right? So you put the branding page basically on the root domain. It can be a WordPress installation. You can use the blog from the root domain as the content distribution engine, right? So the syndication point that distributes the content for your content marketing efforts. And what I would do is then I would create in the blog categories and basically silo out the blog to have a category to match each one of the subdomains. So that when you are, that way you can do your content marketing and distribution from the root domain. So you only have one site that you need to, I don't know how that popped up. You only got, it keeps popping up, look at that. It wants everybody to see it. Anyways, I would do all my content marketing from the one. And here's the thing. You can do that and place the content within the categories that match the subdomains so that you can have, you know, location-specific posts that are going to benefit those posts. You just put an internal link within the content body of that post that links up to or down to the subdomain site, if that makes sense. That way you only got one blog to manage. Now, the idea here is you start content marketing, set up a consistent and regular publishing schedule, start content marketing, start tracking results. Some of the subdomain sites are going to respond better than others. That's just the nature of the game. So the ones that respond well, you just keep blogging for. The ones that aren't responding as well as you would like them to, you can always at that point go set up a location-specific syndication network for that subdomain and then start blogging directly from that subdomain to that location-specific network. That'll give it an extra push. But I always hold off on doing that until after I've determined whether or not that's even necessary. And the way that you do that is just by, again, set up the root domain, use that as your blog, set up all your subdomain sites, and then start content marketing from your root domain blog to cover link building for all of your subdomain sites. That way, you know, try to achieve results with the least amount of effort is my point, right? And the least amount of resources. And having to build another syndication network or purchase another syndication network and then also having another blog to maintain and all of that, that's just additional work that most of the time or a good part of the time is unnecessary. And so, you know, we see a lot of people that are ambitious and they want to go out and build 15 networks right off the bat. And I say, why? You know, why go through all that? Why not start with one and see how well it performs? And then if you can add additional networks as needed. And then you stop as soon as you started to achieve the results that you want, and you save yourself a ton of work and effort. So that said, as far as you would be building from the main domain, the backlinks from the content marketing would benefit both the root domain as well as the subdomain sites, because the content would be published from the root domain, which means there would be an automatic backlink through the attribution link to the root domain, which will subsequently also benefit all of the subdomains. Okay. But at the same time, you're going to have a contextual link within the content body of the post that's going to also be pointing to the subdomain site. So you are basically killing 2 birds with 1 stone through the content marketing and the syndication network. If you're going to be building external third-party links, then I would recommend that typically what I do is just start building citations and in now press releases to, and then obviously drive stacks too, but to each one of the separate subdomain sites, so that the vast majority of the link building is actually being done to the subdomain sites and not to the root domain. Because remember, if you start doing third-party backlinks to the root domain and you catch a penalty, all of your subdomains are going to be in the tank, right? So you want to kind of mitigate that risk. Great question though, by the way. Any comments, guys, or can I move on? Okay, I'm going to move on. Vitali, I think maybe that's it. She's hello. Excuse me. Hello, and thank yous for the opportunity to ask a question. What about sape links? Do they work? Relevant or not relevant? Well, it depends. If you're going to go out and find them on your own through this, you know, sape.ru network, then you can find relevant links because you're going to sift and sort through them, right? So you can actually go find out, you can search by category, but then I would also recommend that you go actually physically take a look at the sites that you can purchase links from so that you can see if the content is relevant. The way that I used them though, like now I did some sape link purchasing on my own where I would actually go through the network and find stuff, but I always found that to be way too time consuming for me. I just didn't like it. So I would go to a bulk sape link provider, and most of the time you couldn't really specify If you go to a private provider, like somebody from an SEO forum, for example, that sells sape links, you can typically get relevant links, like relevant, that are topically relevant links. If you request that, you pay a premium for it because you're having them to do the research and find it, and they're going to make a profit off of it. So you pay a premium for it, but again, they do all the legwork. But when you buy them in bulk, you typically, at least from the provider I've always used, which was SEOlutions.biz, great service for bulk sape links. They would be really good links, but they weren't typically relevant, like topically relevant. But it didn't matter because the way that I used them, it was still powerful. Sape links, as far as I know, they're still powerful. I don't really use them anymore because we're able to achieve results without them through the methods that we teach. But I know that, they are still good links as far as I know. They're still powerful. I would recommend using them as tier 2 or tier 3 links, though, not direct to the money site, unless you can find topically relevant links. Comments, anybody? How about from you, Hernan?
I think he dropped off.
Okay. How about you then?
No, I stopped using them. I stopped using them because we figured out how to use G sites as PBNs.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I just said. I mean, I kind of stopped using them too, probably about 1.5 years ago, just because of the methods that we teach work. We don't need them. But again, if it depends. If you got something that's really competitive and you want to push some additional link equity, right, some power into a network or into your golden frame, so to speak, I would say you can still use them, but I would use them out at like, tier 2, tier 3, so that you're not pointing directly at your money site. Have some good buffers between them is what I'm saying. Okay. Jay Turner, what's up, Jay? He says, one of my clients has 6 locations. One of them is his single GMB account. It's a PO box. If it is reported removed from Google Maps, does it jeopardize the other locations in the GMB account? Not typically, Jay, but I don't work for Google, so I don't know. I've had that happen, though, with, under a profile that had more than one location, and one of them got, terminated for that, but the others did not, which actually I found quite interesting because the other locations within that same profile were basically the same type of setup, just in a different location. So, I don't work for Google. I'm not going to tell you, no, they're not going to, it's not going to hurt the other locations. I can just tell you the experience that I've had it happen has not affected the other locations. But remember, if it's only one and all the other are valid or legit, then I would say you're probably safe, because they would terminate the one for being, against terms of service, but the others, because they're legit, how would they penalize those? But again, Google can do whatever the hell it wants. It's its own property. You know what I mean? So I would say you're probably okay, but that, I would almost say transfer that one into a persona account. Like, make the persona account the manager, a manager of that one that's the PO box. So in Google My Business, add them as a manager, and then you can actually transfer ownership. And that way you can still keep the main profile as a manager, but you transfer the ownership to a persona profile, so that in case that PO box listing gets terminated, it's not going to affect the primary owner account, if that makes sense. Again, I don't think it will if the others are legit, but I don't know. And so I always try to reduce risk as much as possible. Okay. Does Big G only remove the problem listing? As far as I know, but again, I'm not gonna tell you one way and then have it go south on you, and then I get blamed for it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So as far as like, I don't blame you. I would just do what I said. That's what I would do. I would go create a persona account, or just assign a persona that I already have existing as a manager, and then I would transfer ownership to that, and then I would keep the main profile that has all the other locations as a manager instead of an owner, if that makes sense. Okay. Mohammed says, hey guys, when saving an image from another site, do you right click and choose save as, or you use a snipping tool like Snagit to take it? I know from Maps Kingpin that snipping, it means it won't have any metadata, but is it something I should do even when not optimizing for maps? Yeah, it should be. Here's the thing, guys. I don't recommend, images are a bitch. If you are copying other people's images or downloading them, you can get caught up in extortion schemes from places like Getty Images, and like sometimes you'll even just get copyright issues, claims from copyright claims from even like not even like the big image sites, but sometimes just from individual blog owners and things like that. And so over the years, over the course of my career, I've really learned that it doesn't pay to copy images unless you significantly. Go ahead. Just
to break in, didn't we have a little problem with IFTTT just a few months ago? I mean, right along these lines.
Yeah, and I was chatting with somebody in one of our groups, Syndication Academy group or something. I can't remember who it was now off the top of my head, but we were just chatting recently about it. Rick Dugmore, I think it was. Anyways, we were chatting recently about he got some extortion letters from like Getty Images. And I did too. At the beginning of this year, we got several from that all was associated with one blog, and I ended up having to settle on a few of them, and it cost me quite a bit of money. It's a pain in the ass too, and it was from a really silly mistake that I thought was corrected. And they caught us on it for 2 years in a row, and it was really just very painful. And it also kind of, it made me look bad to the client. I mean, he was very understanding. Don't get me wrong. The client's still my client. It's not a problem, but the problem is those type of copyright images, they're called extortion schemes, because that's exactly what they are. Like Getty Images has an algorithm. It always runs at the end of the year, the beginning of the new year. And that's when they'll start sending out these letters saying there's copyright infringements, that you used our image without proper licensing. Therefore, we are charging you a copyright fine, or we're going to take you to court. You either settle out of court and pay this fee, or we're going to court. And the thing is, it scares most people, the layman, right? The civilian, it scares them into just paying it so that they can avoid any potential issues. Other people like Clint Butler is a mastermind member. A lot of you know Clint Butler. He says, tell them to go shit in their hat, delete the image from the site and move on. But when the actual letters are being sent to a business owner and not you as the agency owner, and I'm not saying that you're an agency owner, Muhammad, I'm just explaining through what's happened in my own experience, then you can't really do that, because if they continue sending threatening letters to the business owner gets kind of nervous, right? So if it was direct to me, maybe, but since it went direct to the business owner because they're the site owner, then I ended up I just said, look, I'm just going to, there's a way to send in like a form letter to dispute those charges. And that's only 2 years ago. It was successful 100% of the time. This year in 2017, we got hit with 4 or 5 again. And only 2 of them got accepted. And the other 3 I had to settle on. And it was a real pain in the ass. And again, it was just to kind of save the client from any headache that I said, I'll just pay the damn bill. And I did. So my point is, I don't recommend that you save images or even take screenshots of images unless you're going to significantly alter the image to where it's unrecognizable by these programs out there. And here's an idea, Mohammed. Go to tineye.com, tineye.com, and just drag the image into the little search bar and drop it. And then you'll see if it recognizes the image, it's going to show you other places on the web that it's been published. And what I recommend then is don't use that image or alter it more to where it becomes unrecognizable. But a better strategy is just go buy some damn credits at something like stockfresh.com, right? Stockfresh.com is what all of my curators use now for blogging. We pay for every image, but it's very inexpensive, and it saves our ass because we don't have to worry about, we've got proper licensing. If ever an issue arises, we can prove that we have licensing for it. And to me, it's a small price to pay to save yourself from headaches. So either use original images or go pay for stock image credits and just avoid any issues. Okay, that's my best advice. Or lastly, one other thing, Mohammed, that you can absolutely do, which is a sneaky, but it works great way, is to go to YouTube, search on a keyword, or to find videos that are going to have images of what you need, right, within the video. Then use the filter in YouTube to only select or only show HD quality videos, and then play one of those videos until an image appears on the video that looks like it would work for whatever your content needs are. Pause the video, make sure it's in high resolution, 720p or 1080p. Pause the video, and then take a screenshot of that image, because that's a 100% unique image that nobody else has. And it's an easy way to get free images. The only thing that's a pain in the ass is sometimes you got to sort through multiple videos to find an image that's going to work. And then it's kind of hard to kind of pause a video right where you need it. And sometimes it's a little bit blurry because it's in between frames, that kind of stuff. And you'll know what I mean if you try it. But that's another way to do it if you need free images. But I recommend that, just go to StockFresh is a great site. It's inexpensive. It works really well. Okay.
Not that I would encourage anyone to do what you just mentioned, but VLC Media Player will allow you to take a screenshot of the frame.
Very cool.
But I don't know how I know that. Somebody must have told me.
Some little bird. He says, I have a client who has a huge amount of reviews on Facebook and Google My Business. They're mostly 5-star, and I realized I need to make use of those. A few weeks ago, BB mentioned a review plugin and embedded reviews on the site. That sounds cool, but how would I use it? Where would I place the reviews on the site? Would I have to a dedicated page or just drop them around? Just want to see how guys leverage reviews. Let's see, but you guys add the new SE. Wait. It's not in there? I'll have to check. I appreciate that. Let me make a note of that, actually. It should have been in the members area. We're doing another, by the way, Syndication Academy update webinar next Wednesday, immediately following Hump Day Hangouts. If the last one is not in the members area, then I apologize. I will go through and double check. Let me just make a note of that. Webinar. So that would have been the August webinar. I'll check on that, Mohammed. No problem. If that ever happens, yeah, just ping us or contact support. I'm not in the Facebook group much, guys. I apologize for that, but I stay the hell out of Facebook because it's nothing but a distraction for me, and that's why. So as far as the review site stuff or the reviews, the plugin I was talking about, we really should get an affiliate for this, an affiliate link for this. It's called richplugins.com. Great plugins. It's totally worth paying for the site or the plugin bundle if you've got Google, Facebook, and Yelp reviews. These are, and there's a free version that's very limited, and what you can, how the configuration options are very, very limited for the free version. Guys, it's totally worth paying for. These plugins are fabulous, and they add structured data to the reviews, all kinds of stuff. They're fabulous plugins. So if you have businesses or you do client consulting that, client SEO work or whatever, and they're utilizing reviews and reputation marketing, which they all should be, then these plugins are absolutely fabulous for helping. It's user-generated content that gets automatically added to the site. Just when anybody leaves a review, these connect via API, so they basically will publish within a matter of seconds from Google or Yelp or Facebook or whatever, those user-generated reviews on the site. So it helps to add content. The content usually has keywords in it because the reviews are talking about the services or products that were purchased, right? And so it's just an automated way to add additional relevancy to an activity to your site without you having to lift a finger. And so these plugins are great. You can add the review widgets in the sidebar of the site. You can add them in the footer. There's also short codes so that you can actually put review widgets in the content. So you can break up content with review carousels and things like that. So there's they're really, really, really good plugins, and they're, for the price, I think it's $90 for the plugin bundle. And it's totally worth it in my opinion. So anyways, go check them out. George is up. George is a newer mastermind member. What's up, George? He says, AdWords, let's say the keyword is plumbing services. Business A bids for plumbing services is phrase match. So plumbing services Dallas would trigger the ad. Business B bids for plumbing services Dallas as exact match. Could business B appear before business A and the SERPs at a lower CPC just because it is exact match, or highest bid with best quality score wins? It's supposed to be based upon quality score, really. So you can actually pay less per click and outrank somebody that's bid higher as far as the ad positioning. So if your quality score is an 8 to a 10 and your competitor's quality score is a 5 to a 7, and you have bid, let's say your max cost per click bid was $10 and their max cost per click bid was $12, it's very likely that your ad is still going to outperform theirs, even though they're a higher bidder for the same keyword, because you have a higher quality score, because you've proven to Google through historical data, right? Through the performance of that ad, both the click-through rate and pretty much the click-through rate is mainly it. But if you've proven to Google that your ad is more relevant because it gets a higher click-through rate, which in turn improves your overall quality score, which means it lowers your cost per click bid, right? Or it lowers what they charge you for the click. And so now if you set up both, let me try to explain this in a different way, George. If you set up, when I talk about alpha beta campaigns, we always use the beta campaigns to identify the primary traffic driving keywords, in which case, and so those are modified broad match that we use as the match type. When we use that to generate enough data to be able to determine what the best exact match keywords are, the ones that are most frequently searched and generate the click from the user, right, the visitor. And then once we've identified those, then we peel those out of that ad group, the beta campaign group, and we put it into its own single keyword ad group as an exact match in an alpha campaign, right? And if you've been through local Kingpin, George, then you know what I'm talking about. And so my point is, if you don't add that same exact match keyword it's called the peel and stick method. You peel it out of the beta campaign and put it into a single keyword ad group in the alpha campaign, but you also have to make that a negative exact match keyword in the beta campaign, or else you'll have that keyword basically competing from two different campaigns, because Google is going to charge you higher cost per click if that keyword serves the ad under the beta campaign, because it's a modified broad match, so it's a higher cost per click charge. Whereas if it's served from the alpha campaign, then it's an exact match, which means it's more relevant, which means it's a lower cost per click, right? So, and now theoretically, or what Google says is that if you have an exact match keyword in an alpha like an exact match keyword match type in one campaign, and then you have a beta or a phrase match, a modified broad match or a phrase match in another campaign, and then so that they're competing, Google says that AdWords will deliver the exact match so that it charges you less on your budget. But come on, guys, you think Google's really out there to try to save us money? So, I mean, in all reality, and I've seen it happen in my own campaigns where I've set up the alpha campaign and forgot to add the same exact match keyword from the alpha campaign as a negative keyword in the beta campaign. I forgot to do that, and I've seen where my alpha ad isn't being served near as much as it should be, and my beta ad is, and we're still receiving clicks because it charges a higher amount. So if Google will serve the beta campaign ad to charge you a higher amount within your own AdWords account, imagine what they're going to do when it's a competitor account that you're competing with. You know what I mean? My point is they're going to go whatever's going to charge the higher dollar, unless it's a quality score issue. That's the exception. Is if you have a higher quality score, then yes, you will pay a lower click and oftentimes, or cost per click, but you'll often outrank somebody that's even willing to bid higher. And the reason why is because Google wants the ad to be the most relevant to the user, so that the user is satisfied for clicking on the link. And if you've got a higher quality score, it's because you've proven you've got a higher click-through rate, which means the ad is more relevant to the actual search query, if that makes sense. Okay. So anybody that doesn't know AdWords, I know that was like Chinese, but that was a great question, George. All right. Hey, Bradley, I bought PowerSuggest Pro through the link you provided, and I absolutely love it. It works wonders. I used it for one of my native language sites, and I found more than 1,000 keywords manually. I was only able to find about 10% of that. I think this is the fastest and best keyword tool I've ever used, so big thank you for the recommendation. I totally agree. It's probably my favorite keyword tool of all time because it's simple, and it does exactly what the hell you need it to do, and it does nothing else, and that's why I love it. So many of those keyword tools out there have so many bells and whistles, and I don't know. Personally, I don't think any of them are worth a shit. I like the PowerSuggest Pro because it's simple and it's fast. I made a mistake, and now I have 3 questions. For a silo page on page optimization, I use the keyword sweeteners, and my language doesn't look so weird, although it's written correctly in my language too, or incorrectly in my language too. But for off page, I use the word sweeteners as anchor text pointing to the silo page from a bunch of Web 2s and social properties and G Drive docs. Why I did this? Because according to this site. The two variations have the same monthly searches, but Sweeteners is very low in title and URL numbers, low competition. The problem is now the page is ranked 95 in the SERPs and doesn't move up from there 7 or 8 weeks or so. Question, how should I solve this? Leave it as is and wait, because Google will know that the two variations have the same meaning and will lift it up in the SERPs anyways, or 2, on-page optimize the page using the correctly written version of Sweeteners. I don't know, because I'm not familiar with like other language type of keyword stuff. Like, that's not something I typically do. I would say that I would go back. I mean, it depends on where you're trying to, like, are you trying to rank in a different Google instead of google.com, Google US? Or are you trying to rank in a different search engine, like, or, you know, a different country search? If that's the case, I really can't speak on that because I don't know. Perhaps Hernan or Marco could comment on that. But if it's for English language, I would go after the correct spelling, there's no doubt. And I would start with re-optimizing the page to be correct. It would always start with on-page, guys. Before you start trying to correct off-page issues, you should always correct on-page issues first. And so that's what I would do if it's for English. If it's for foreign language stuff, I can't really comment it because I don't have any experience. Marco or Hernan, if you're on.
You know, what he could do is, if he has a page that's the incorrect spelling, he could 301 that to the correct spelling, and that will take care of the anchor text issues as long as the on-page is okay in the correct spelling page. But he can also, somewhere on the page, associate both the correct and incorrect spellings. So he can say sweetener, sometimes referred to, and have the incorrect spelling, which is correct. Solve that question and by telling Google which is which and why, and then that would be actually helpful to even a visitor to know what the difference is between sweetener and the incorrect spelling of sweetener.
Yeah,
I think that's a quick solution, and you don't have to do too much on page since you should already have the correct spelling page optimized.
Yep. So we've only got a couple minutes left, guys. I want to try to run through the rest of his question and then get through like the next 2 or 3 because they're very, very short anyways. So if anybody has to bounce, feel free. I think I'm going to stick around for about 8 more minutes. Question number 2 is changing backlinks anchors a dangerous move? Would Google penalize this in any way? Well, the problem with changing backlinks and anchors is, and I mean, it's a very manual process if you have access to them, those sites. Like if you can go in and actually edit the content so that you can change the link. I don't particularly like to do that. And the reason why is because it's a clear indication that some SEO work is being done. Because Google has, if any of those pages that the content, you know, the pages that contain the backlink that are pointing to your site, if you're able to go in and edit those, if any of those have already been indexed by Google, then it means Google knows what's on the page. There's a history of it, right? It's been cached, it's in their index. And so you go in and start swapping the links out to change how it's optimized and that kind of stuff. Like, to me, that's kind of a signal that is not a good signal. So I don't particularly like to do that. I only do that typically, you know, as like a last resort. So what I would do is fix the on page first, and then I would dilute the anchor text with some additional type of links, probably naked URLs or generic terms and stuff, and then try to get some particularly powerful links. Drive stacks would be good for this. Press releases would be good for this. Press releases would be good as long as you're using naked URLs. But what I'm saying is try to find some sources of some particularly powerful links that you can add anchor text to, and you only need to add 1 or 2 with the correct spelling if it's a good enough link, and it should give it a boost, especially if you've diluted the incorrect anchor text with some like generics and or brand terms or naked URLs, if that makes sense. So if you can dilute the bad first to where it's less optimized, your off page is less off, so your anchor text ratio is less optimized for that keyword. Then once you've diluted it, then you can hit it with a particularly powerful link with an exact match, the correct spelling, and it should give you a boost. At least that's been my experience. Okay. Last part of this, can you recommend a better free or not free tool for keyword traffic data than Mangle's? Yeah, Google Keyword Planner is a piece of shit. Yeah, you're right. It totally is. It's not a SEO tool. It's an AdWords tool, guys. For years, everybody's been using the keyword planner as an SEO tool. It's not an SEO tool. That's why Power Suggest Pro is a much better option, because it uses Google Suggest terms, right? Which is a indication of terms that are highly searched and that have traffic data, right? Or that even if they don't show traffic data, they have traffic, okay? As far as better or free keyword traffic data than Mangles, now I don't even care about it anymore. Like, I honestly don't care what traffic data is. I use Google Trends to determine the popularity of keywords. I don't care what the traffic is. If they show in trends, they're good keywords. And then I use the keywords that come back from trends as seed terms with Power Suggest Pro. And I don't care what the traffic data is, guys. Those keywords have traffic. So I mean, some people care about those numbers. I don't. I stopped caring about that a long time ago. In AdWords, I do care about it, but for SEO, I don't. I do the Google Trends as my starting point. Then I copy the seed terms that are relevant to my campaign. Then I go drill down on each one of those seed terms with Power Suggest Pro. And I create a very robust or long list of keywords. Okay. All right. Arifer says, can you tell me how to become Google AdWords certified? Yeah, there's a test and exam and all that. I never got certified. I started to, but it was just too much work for me, and I really don't need it, because I don't do a whole lot of like agency stuff with ads. I've got a few clients I do some management, but very, very few. It's not something that I do more AdWords stuff for my own business and my own lead gen properties and some affiliate stuff. So I don't really do it much for agency. If you're going to be like performing agency services like AdWords management, then yes, it would absolutely be good for you to be certified. You can go to YouTube and find AdWords certification, videos and webinars and things like that walk you through mock exams and stuff like that. Just go to YouTube and do some searches. Plus, you can also go to like Udemy, Udemy, or I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's UDEMY. It's a digital training marketplace. You can go there and find Google AdWords certified training courses for there's oftentimes sales. You can get them for cheap, 20, 30, 40 bucks, stuff like that. So I would just recommend going through that. I never became certified, so I can't speak on it much. I started going through the process, but it's not something that I do enough of to where it's worth my time, if that makes sense. Taylor says, when I do a Google site, is my info in the Google Drive area accessible to others or just myself? Well, you can make it accessible to view, but not edit. That's part of the settings in in Google Drive. So when you go to make the document public, you just make sure that the setting is people are free to view, but not free to edit. And that's part of the settings in Drive. Again, that's just when you go to make the links for those files public, there's a setting there. It's just part of the, it's very, very simple. Walk through the process and you'll know what I'm talking about. Can I do, so nobody can edit them, they can see them though, if you have the settings correct. And it's a very simple process. When you go to make them public, it's right there. It's like a little wizard, right?
Yeah, but that's the whole point. The whole point behind this is to make them public, and so that anybody can view, and Googlebot can crawl and put them in their index, whether it's the public facing index, it's in their database.
Yeah, but you don't want them editable.
No. Right. Some of them will rank, some of them won't. But yes, the info in Google Drive, it will be in the drive that you make public to build the G site, will be visible to others.
Yeah. Second question, can I do these Google sites in bulk? Yes, you can. In fact, there's a tool by Peter Drew, which is awesome. It's called G Sites Builder. I don't know if we have the link handy. We can drop it on the page, Taylor. If not, we can tag you on the link later. But it's a great tool. It builds Google sites very, very quickly in bulk. You can do, you can build multiple sites in bulk, or you can build multiple pages on one site. And it's a great tool for setting all that stuff up very quickly. Okay. Ivan Lett, hey guys, I know that done for you ROI stacks are in English only, but if you use them to boost a site that is in another language, can they still be effective? Yes, they absolutely can, Ivan. Marco, you want to comment on that?
No, absolutely, because links in other languages, with websites in other languages work. We use English all the time because Spanish is limited in what they offer as far as power links. So if that works, I don't see why doing your own drive stacks in English and ending up in I don't know, I know where Ivan is, but let's just say Romanian. If you do that, the relevance should carry over. Google is able to understand that there's a relevance between the content in English and the content in Romanian.
Yeah. Roger says it's hard to believe how much spam Google properties can take. Yeah, it is hard to believe, Roger, but it's awesome. So exploit it while it's still effective. And the last question by Jen, I guess it is. I don't really have, it's 5 o'clock, so I got to wrap it up. Marco, is this something that you started chatting with Jen about?
Yeah, but I can't go into details. He asked about the power loop, and it's something that we discuss only. I've discussed it in the mastermind, and I've discussed it in the Facebook group and the Rank Your Shit Reloaded, and I am not willing to give away information that people pay for.
Okay, well then I would just direct Jen to repost this question back into the Facebook group, and that way the discussion can occur in there.
Well, if he's not in the Facebook group, then you should think about joining RYS Reloaded. If you're not in the mastermind, then perhaps you should think about joining the Semantic Mastery Mastermind, because this information will go into in-depth in either one. I'd be glad to cover it and show you exactly how it works and show you exactly how to bump GMB listing map into the 3-pack.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thanks everybody for being here. We don't have a mastermind webinar this week, so I think we're done for webinars this week, aren't we? As far as I know. All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for being here. We'll see everybody next week. Go rank your shit.
That's right. Later.